I had to rebuild my confidence from zero after shutting down the business that I had worked on for 5 years. My confidence didn't just drop, it kind of disappeared, it was gone overnight. I did not feel bad, I did not feel good, I kind of felt nothing, empty. So in this video, I want to share what actually pulled me out because a lot of advice out there on the internet did not work for my ADHD brain. And if you're feeling insecure and what you're projecting outside does not really match what you're feeling inside, then this is for you. I was the CEO of Hey Llama, an edtech startup with hundreds of thousands of users. My identity was tied to it. I was the CEO of Hey Llama to my wife, to my friends on LinkedIn at events, and when I had to shut it down, it hit really, really hard. I didn't feel like doing anything because nothing mattered, because it felt like I was not capable of doing anything. And I just watched a lot of movies and a lot of YouTube. My relationship with my wife suffered, my weight fluctuated, my mood swung, and it felt like I was on a one-way street to depression, but I turned it around. So in this video, you'll learn two very important things about confidence. First, we'll explore why confidence is so fragile in people with ADHD. And second, we'll talk about a that simple but very powerful way, like a method of building confidence that is very predictable. Let's first understand why confidence can be so fragile in people with ADHD. One of the biggest regrets or fears we usually have in life is not realizing our full potential. Many of us navigate life undiagnosed, just like myself. I got diagnosed at the age of 38. So as we move through life, we accumulate evidence of our own shortcomings, of all the evidence of situations when we didn't try hard enough, when we slacked, or when we just lucked out. So that exam that we actually passed, but we started studying for it only on the night before, or maybe project or presentation or report that we had to prepare, and maybe it was very important, but we only started working on it on the last day. Everything kind of works out in the end, most of the time, but we know that if only we applied more effort, if only we tried harder, if only we were more disciplined and spent more time on that, we could do much more. We could achieve much more. That's the story we tell ourselves. And that story and narrative and belief can stem from anywhere. Parents telling us that we have to try harder, maybe teachers, our peers, books or movies. However, what happens is that it creates some kind of gap between reality and our expectations. Because in our expectations, we can do a lot. We can be very disciplined and do things in a completely different way. We expect and want ourselves to do things in a different way. But in reality, it works out the way it works out, and as a result, we have this gap. Deep inside, we are convinced, we tell ourselves the story that we are lazy, we're irresponsible, and that maybe we don't trust in our own ability to get things done. So that's why our confidence can fracture at any moment. Anytime a shock or a loss happens in our life, when somebody says something, when we read a negative comment under our YouTube video, when somebody gives feedback on our presentation, anything that's not in our favor can fracture and can shatter our confidence. They remind us of that mistrust and activate and trigger that imposter syndrome. Now that we understand the mechanism of how our confidence can get so fragile, we can actually surprisingly reverse engineer the same mechanism to build up our confidence. And here is what I got wrong about confidence most of my life. I imagined confidence to be something we unlock, as if we develop it and we build it up and it accumulates and never disappears. However, a better analogy for confidence is food in the fridge. So if you don't touch that food in the fridge, if you just leave it alone for too long, it goes stale and then it goes bad. Or if you keep eating the food from the fridge and never restock, it runs out. And a big enough shock, a big enough loss can empty out the fridge completely fracturing and fragmenting and destroying your confidence. And after a lot of trial and error, I discovered a simple law of confidence, a method of building confidence that consists of two ingredients. A verifiable track record of meaningful actions, hard actions, and wins. And B, the recognition of those wins, being consciously aware of those hard actions and wins. So confidence, as I call it, is an evidence-based system. It's not something you unlock within yourself. It's not something that sits inside of you and you reveal it. It's something you build over time through actions. For example, when I was in that deep dark hole after shutting down my business, what I did was that I just resumed my calisthenics workouts 3 times a week. I just said, hey, let's go outside and exercise a bit. I started feeling better already after my first workout. After that, I started Spanish classes because I wanted to learn Spanish for a long time. Then I started a walking streak of getting at least 7K steps a day. And then I started playing more chess and analyzing my games so that I improved my ELO. I did not start all of that at the same time. I just started stacking some very meaningful actions and habits on top of each other. As I started doing these actions and getting better day after day, learning some extra Spanish words, getting a few extra ELO points in chess, or doing an extra pull-up, I gave my brain a verifiable data track record of my own successes and wins. Basically, I showed my brain with actions that I am capable, that I can do hard and meaningful things. That me losing my company did not mean that I lost my full identity and who I am, that I lost my capability to do things. And here's where the second part of this method comes in. People with ADHD tend to be very, very strict towards themselves, and we usually write off or discount meaningful actions and wins as something unimportant or meaningless. The second part of this method is hard because it requires you to learn to be more objective and start more objective about yourself and your achievements and your wins and your actions, and start noticing them. Our standards and expectations for ourselves are so high that we say things like, 7K steps a day is nothing. We want 15K steps or 20K steps. One extra pull-up? What is that? Look at that guy on YouTube. He did 20 pull-ups straight. And getting some extra points in chess? You are nowhere close to Magnus. And we keep telling those stories, belittling our achievements. And as a result, our confidence just shudders under the burden, that crumbles under the burden of all those expectations. And we do nothing. We just avoid and escape reality. So for this method to work, we have to learn to be kinder to ourselves, and we have to learn to notice our wins, no matter how big or how small those wins are. So the best way to do that is actually to keep track of that, to journal that. But you and I know that journaling is not necessarily our cup of tea. So for ADHD people, being very consistent with journaling is not that easy. So I came up with a better method. So the hack I discovered is actually journaling with AI. So the problem with traditional journaling is that it's a solo experience where we have to introspect and write down our thoughts. However, the journal cannot give feedback and cannot talk back to us. However, if you journal with AI, if you create a project in whatever AI of your choice, and you start tracking things in that project, your AI can reflect back, can give you feedback, can track over time, and can help you notice the exact wins we need to build that win streak and to rebuild and maintain our confidence. And we can be very frank with our AI and tell them that, hey, we want to know about our wins. We want to know about how we're getting better. We want to see and notice that every day. So please tell me whenever you notice I'm doing something well, something better. And then you can use it for tracking your weight, your workouts, just journaling, anything you're working on. And then AI will be able to give feedback to you and help you notice your wins. It's not about just boasting or getting some empty compliments. It's about creating a journaling experience that gives you and helps you notice those things. But it would be a mistake to stop there. After all, we cannot just chat with our AI and build our confidence around feedback from AI. We are social animals. We need to talk to other people and also be confident around other people. So I encourage you to also start sharing with people closest to you. People you know cheer for you and want you to win in life. For example, I started sharing my wins with my wife. telling her about my workouts, maybe telling her about an amazing chess game, or telling her about the book I'm reading so that she's also proud of me and then she can also celebrate those wins with me. I also started sharing some of the things I was doing with my closest friends so that we could also celebrate that together. And as you learn to notice your wins on your actions and people around you start celebrating you and celebrating with you and cheering for you. And also, as you start building that verifiable track record of wins through journaling, through actively teaching yourself to notice that, you will have the real evidence that you can do things. And your brain will start helping you build up that confidence. So your confidence will grow and glow. If you watched the video until this point, this means the world to me. Thank you very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.